So, when is that next stimulus check likely to come? Melissa Correa explains all of the steps that must happen before Americans see any more money.
As Congress works on a COVID relief deal, President Joe Biden is talking to Americans.
Suicides are up, mental health needs are increasing, violence against women and children is increasing. A lot of folks are losing hope. And I believe the American people are looking right now to their government for help, to do our job, to not let them down.
Biden wants the American Rescue Plan to cover a $160 billion vaccine rollout. He wants money to help Americans pay for food, health insurance, and rent, while extending some unemployment benefits. The plan also helps schools, daycare, state and local governments, plus that $1,400 stimulus check for struggling Americans.
I'm not cutting the size of the checks. They're going to be $1,400, period. That's what the American people were promised.
The plan is moving through a congressional process known as reconciliation. This allows legislation which changes spending or revenues to move at a faster pace because the Senate only needs a simple majority vote to approve. There's no possibility of a filibuster. So now that the House and Senate approved the budget resolution, it all goes back to the House, where representatives will break up into committees to begin formulating the actual bill. That bill must be debated and voted on, and this is when amendments can happen. Republicans could ask for the Keystone Pipeline to be restored. Democrats may fight for a $15 minimum wage again. And we might see a compromise on which Americans qualify for that $1,400 check. After all of those amendments are made, the bill will go up for a final vote in both chambers. Once approved by Congress, President Biden could sign that relief package into law as soon as mid-March, just in time to extend benefits that are set to expire exactly a year into this national emergency.
Mel, that is one aggressive timeline, especially with President Trump's impeachment trial in the Senate next week. So what are the odds of it happening?
Hey, Sherman, they're actually pretty good because not requiring the Senate to have that 2/3 majority vote can really speed things up. And we've seen the reconciliation process work in the past. In the early 2000s, a Republican Congress was able to increase the deficit. And then back in 2017, Congress used that process to approve tax cuts for corporations and the wealthy.
Melissa Correa, thank you very much for some very helpful information.